Joining us now, we are delighted to welcome to the show House Speaker Mike Johnson. Speaker Johnson, it's a pleasure having you on. Man, you've been walking through fire down there. Okay, this fight over the $1.59 trillion government funding deal. House conservatives are unhappy. They say it's actually $1.66 trillion. It includes, $69 billion in spending they don't like. What do you make of that?
Hey, thanks, Liz. Great to be with you. It's my first time as Speaker to be on the show. Look, I am a House conservative. For my entire career, I've voted for spending cuts and much smaller budgets and all the rest. But of course, I inherited this situation. Last year, there was a negotiation among all the parties, and they came up with a spending agreement. $1.59 trillion was the amount that was written into the FRA, the statutory law. We know that's the spending limit. Now, there were some side deals negotiated on that last summer. What I came into as Speaker was that situation, and so we went into the room and we significantly cut those side deals. In fact, we converted that into about $16 billion in real savings to the American taxpayers. So it's a step in the right direction. We've cut out the gimmicks out of that budget. We cut out the spending. And Liz, it actually amounts to the first reduction in non-defense spending in many years. So this is a step forward. It's not what we want. It's not everything we want. But remember, we have a 1 to 2 vote margin in just one chamber of the legislative branch. I mean, this is the best we can do right now.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says they're getting everything they want in non-defense spending, that it doesn't cut spending. And Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene says it does nothing to stop the border crisis, stop the invasion, stop the weaponized government targeting Biden's political enemies and innocent Americans. What do you make of those criticisms?
Well, listen, Chuck Schumer is going to spin it as best he can, but this is not what they wanted to do. In fact, this amounts to a $30 billion cut to what the Senate had written, what they wanted to spend in the appropriations process. So this is significant. By the way, we clawed back unspent COVID funds. That's $6.1 billion, part of this. $10 billion more from that IRS fund that they had set aside. So that's $20 billion out of that in total. This is significant savings for the people. Again, not everything we wanted. Now, Marjorie's not wrong. The border is on fire. You know, Liz, I took 64 members down on a trip down there last week, and what we saw was heartbreaking and infuriating. We are willing to die on that hill. The appropriations process is to keep the government funded, to make sure our troops are paid, that the federal government operates. And in the middle of all that, we're having a serious fight about securing that border. And we are insistent upon that. We have been since the day I got the gavel, and none of that has changed.
You know, the voter polls show the voters do not believe the Biden White House, saying they did secure the border. You released a list today detailing 64 actions the president took that opened the border and, created these historic levels of legal immigration. And now, Speaker, we've got more Texas counties. We've got about 50 counties declaring they are in a state of an invasion based on the U.S. Constitution. That's like a fifth of all Texas counties. What do you make of this?
It's an absolute catastrophe, a humanitarian catastrophe, a national security catastrophe. We saw it with our own eyes. In fact, we were having the press conference with all of our members, and people were crossing the river behind us, coming into the country illegally, like an open border, and that's what it is. The Biden administration did this intentionally. These are policy choices that got us there. And our list of the 64 events that he's engaged in from the first day that he took the Oval Office by executive orders is what has led us into this situation. It is not sustainable. We've had over 7.1 million encounters at the border since he took office, and we estimate the number of people actually in the country illegally is probably close to 14 or 15 million. That's what the experts say. This is a serious problem. Over 300 suspects on the terrorism watch list have been stopped at the border. Liz, we have no idea how many of them came through and evaded capture. We saw the cartels down there, they estimate. The drug cartels in Mexico are not really in the drug business so much anymore. It's human trafficking. They're making $32 million a week in that sector alone, that sector of Texas where we were. That's $1.6 billion a year that the administration is allowing to go to transnational violent criminal organizations because we have opened the border. It must stop, and we need accountability right now.
You know, Speaker, we see the voter polls, right? We see Democrat voters in Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, and elected officials, state officials, upset with the border crisis. It feels like we're at a hinge point, a turning point. You know, let's talk about crime, because that's when the people who say yes to open borders, that's when their arguments stop cold. The Texas counties we were just talking about, Crockett County in Texas, they declared an invasion. One of its county judges' family members was killed by an alleged human smuggler. So these are the stories that we hear repeatedly about the crime. Now, listen, Americans are for legal immigration. They're upset when they see crime coming across the border.
It's total chaos. It's lawlessness. And by the way, as we toured the processing facility there, the Border Patrol agents conceded to us they're not even really patrolling that border in large sections because they're all needed there to process the people who the Biden administration is welcoming into the country. And by the way, Liz, about 60 to 70% of the people crossing into that Del Rio sector are single adult males between the ages of 18 and 40. We saw many of them with our own two eyes. This is not families, fleeing persecution in their home countries. This is people taking Joe Biden's invitation to come in. And by the way, billions and billions of U.S. taxpayer dollars being spent on the housing, the education, the health care, and all the other services being provided to these people. Mayorkas admitted himself in a closed meeting just a couple of days ago, 85% of the people who come across are just released into the country. I mean, they're doing this intentionally. We have to get accountability.
But he said it was
and the House
75.
Republicans are.
He said it was 75%, then he raised it to 85.
Well, that's right. He said that in a private meeting, and it leaked. Listen, when you talk to the people down there, you reference the sheriffs and the people who are in charge of trying to get control of this chaos. They're completely overwhelmed. They were telling us harrowing stories of what's happening, and every American should see it with their own two eyes.
Speaker Johnson, you did well on your debut appearance on the Evening Edit. We appreciate you. Don't be a stranger. Come back soon, okay? We're staying on what's going on down there, okay? It's good to have you on, sir. Thank you so much.